The morning sun was just beginning to rise over Savanna National Park, painting the horizon in shades of gold and amber. A light mist hovered above the grasslands, and the distant call of hornbills echoed through the still air. It was the kind of morning that whispered peace until the ground began to tremble, asterisk at first. The rangers thought it was a passing herd moving through the trees, but soon they heard the unmistakable, thunderous roar of distress, a sound that only elephants could make when fear grips their hearts. Within minutes, the tranquil silence of the African wild was shattered. A massive female elephant, known by the rangers as Sita, the matriarch of her herd, had suddenly collapsed. She was heavily pregnant, due any day now, but no one imagined it would happen this way. The dust rose in a choking cloud as her enormous body hit the earth, sending birds scattering from the treetops. The rest of the herd formed a circle around her, their trunks waving and rumbling in panic. Asterisk from the observation post, Ranger Joseph lifted his binoculars, his heart sinking. He knew Sita. She wasn't just any elephant. She was one of the oldest and most respected in the herd. A mother of 5 calves, a leader known for her calm strength. He had watched her guide her family through storms, droughts, and even poacher attacks. And now, to see her lying motionless on the ground felt like watching a pillar of the wild crumble. Asterisk, something's wrong, Joseph muttered. Asterisk, the other rangers jumped into their jeep. The dirt road was narrow and rough, every bump shaking through their bones as they sped toward the clearing. When they arrived, the sight before them was haunting. Asterisk, Sita lay on her side, her trunk stretched out across the dirt, her tusks half buried in the soil. Her massive belly rose and fell unevenly, and her eyes flickered weakly. Around her, the herd was restless, some trumpeting loudly, others nudging her gently as if begging her to rise. The smallest calf in the group pressed its forehead against her side, crying softly. Asterisk, keep your distance, whispered Ranger Aisha. They're protecting her, asterisk indeed. The other elephants were on edge. They flared their ears and stamped the ground, warning the humans not to come closer. The air felt electric, heavy with fear and tension. The rangers could do nothing but watch for now. Asterisk, could it be labor? One of them asked. Asterisk, Joseph shook his head. Maybe, but it doesn't look normal. Asterisk, he knew elephant births were rarely easy. A mother elephant carries her baby for nearly 2 years, longer than any other land animal. And when the time comes, the process can be dangerous, even fatal. But this seemed different. The way she collapsed so suddenly, the way her breathing struggled, it was as if something had gone terribly wrong inside her. Asterisk, minutes passed, though they felt like hours. The herd's noises grew louder, more desperate. The rangers spoke in hushed tones, unsure if they were witnessing a death or a miracle. Asterisk, suddenly, the wind shifted and a faint rumbling sound came from deep within Sita's body. The rangers froze. It wasn't the kind of sound an elephant makes. It was softer, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the ground. Asterisk, Aisha frowned. Do you hear that? Asterisk, Joseph nodded slowly, leaning forward. Yes. From inside her, asterisk, the herd reacted to. The older females moved closer, their trunks reaching toward Sita's belly as if sensing life beneath the surface. Their eyes were wide, alert, almost knowing. Asterisk, and then, without warning, Sita's massive body jerked. Her legs twitched. A low, guttural moan escaped her throat, a sound so deep it vibrated through the earth. She tried to lift her head, but fell back, exhausted. Asterisk, she's still alive. One ranger cried. Asterisk, Joseph motioned for silence. He could see the strain in Sita's eyes, pain, yes, but also determination. It was as if her spirit refused to surrender. He had seen animals die before, many, in fact, but something about this moment felt different. It wasn't just instinct, it was willpower. Asterisk, the herd began to move in rhythm with her. They formed an even tighter circle, trumpeting softly, as though chanting encouragement. The younger elephants used their trunks to fan away the dust. The older ones stood guard, facing outward, prepared to defend their fallen leader. Asterisk, the sun was now high enough to pierce through the trees, casting golden light over the scene. Dust sparkled in the air like tiny stars. The rangers felt helpless, but couldn't look away. Nature was unfolding something ancient, something primal. Asterisk, Joseph whispered to himself, come on, girl, you've made it this far. Don't give up now. Asterisk, then came another tremor from Sita's body, stronger this time. The ground beneath her rippled slightly. The rangers exchanged glances. Even the birds had gone silent. There was an energy in the air that no one could explain. Asterisk, suddenly, one of the rangers gasped. Look, her stomach moved. Asterisk, it wasn't just breathing now. Something inside her belly was shifting, pushing. The herd reacted instantly. Trumpets erupted, echoing across the savannah. The rangers realized, with awe and disbelief, that she wasn't dying. She was in labor. Asterisk, but it wasn't going smoothly. The contractions were too strong, too uneven. Sita groaned and struggled, rolling slightly on her side. Sweat glistened on her thick gray skin. Each time she tried to rise, her legs gave out again. Asterisk, should we help her? Aisha asked, her voice trembling. Asterisk, Joseph shook his head. We can't interfere. It's too dangerous. This is her fight. Asterisk, they watched as the herd continued their strange dance, shifting, pacing, trumpeting in low tones. It was as if they were performing a ritual of support, their bodies communicating in ways humans could never understand. Asterisk, minutes felt like hours. The rangers could hear the rhythmic pulse of life, could almost feel the baby elephant struggling to enter the world. But Sita's strength was fading. Each movement grew weaker, each breath more strained. Asterisk, the oldest female in the herd, perhaps Sita's sister, stepped forward and pressed her trunk to Sita's head, holding it there for a long moment. The gesture was unmistakable. Comfort, solidarity, love. Asterisk, and then, suddenly, stillness. Asterisk, the herd went quiet. The rangers froze. Asterisk, Sita's breathing slowed to almost nothing. Her eyes half closed, her great body completely still. Asterisk, Joseph's voice cracked. No, please, not like this. Asterisk, for a few haunting seconds, the jungle itself seemed to stop. No wind, no sound, only the vast, heavy silence of loss. Asterisk, a tear slipped down Aisha's cheek. She's gone, she whispered. Asterisk, but just then, just when the rangers were sure it was over, a deep, faint rumble echoed from within the fallen giant. The earth beneath her trembled ever so slightly. Joseph leaned forward, eyes wide. Asterisk, wait, he said. Do you feel that? Asterisk, the ground moved again. A soft, rhythmic push. Dust puffed up from beneath Sita's body. Asterisk, and then came the sound, the tiniest trumpet, weak but unmistakable. Asterisk, Joseph's heart stopped. He looked at Aisha. No, it can't be. Asterisk, but it was. Something was happening beneath Sita's still frame, something no one had ever expected to witness. Asterisk, the herd began to stir once more, restless and alert, as the miracle within the dust prepared to reveal itself. The jungle held its breath. The rangers stood frozen, staring at the fallen elephant as faint tremors rippled through the ground. At first, they thought it was their imagination, a trick of grief, a desperate hope. But then it came again, a small, soft movement beneath Sita's enormous frame, followed by a muffled sound that none of them could mistake. Asterisk, gave baby's trumpet. Asterisk, the realization hit all at once. The mother elephant had not fallen in death. She had fallen in labor. What they were witnessing was not the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary. Asterisk, look. Aisha gasped, pointing toward Sita's belly. The thick layer of dust around her stirred, and then, from beneath her body, a small shape began to push through. Asterisk, the rangers instinctively took a step forward, but Joseph raised his hand to stop them. Stay back, he said quietly. His voice trembled with awe. Let nature do what it does best. Asterisk, the herd seemed to understand. The older elephants closed ranks, forming a protective wall around their fallen matriarch. Their eyes were fixed on the tiny, struggling form emerging from the dust. The air was heavy with tension, and yet there was hope. Asterisk, slowly, a small trunk appeared, covered in soil and wet from birth. It waved weakly in the air, searching for life. Then came a head, floppy ears, and a tiny body slick with afterbirth. The calf's skin was wrinkled and glistening, almost glowing in the sunlight that now broke through the trees. Asterisk, it's alive, whispered one ranger, unable to believe what he was seeing. Asterisk, the newborn calf tried to move, its legs trembling under its own weight. It collapsed twice, letting out small, pitiful cries. But it didn't give up. Inch by inch, the baby elephant struggled to rise, its instincts guiding it toward survival. Asterisk, the herd erupted in soft rumbles, a language older than humanity itself. The sound was deep, melodic, and strangely comforting. It was how elephants welcome new life, a symphony of love and unity. Asterisk, Joseph felt a lump rise in his throat. She did it, he murmured. Even as she fell, she brought her child into the world. Asterisk, the calf finally managed to stand, swaying on unsteady legs. It stumbled toward its mother, pressing its tiny trunk against her still body. The scene was heartbreaking, and yet profoundly beautiful, for a few tense moments. There was no response. The Rangers feared the worst. But then, miraculously, Sita's trunk moved. It lifted just a few inches, trembling from exhaustion, and brushed against her newborn. It was the faintest touch, but it was enough to send a ripple of emotion through everyone present. She's alive. Aisha cried out, tears streaming down her face. The herd broke into a chorus of low trumpets. Dust swirled around them as they celebrated the impossible, mother and calf, both alive against all odds. Sita blinked slowly, her eyes heavy but filled with light. She reached out again, her trunk curling gently around the calf as if to pull it closer. The baby nestled against her, making soft squeaks of comfort. It was a moment so pure, so raw, that even the Rangers forgot to breathe. Minutes turned into hours. The Rangers stayed hidden at a respectful distance, watching as nature wrote a story more powerful than anything human hands could script. The older elephants began to assist, using their trunks to lift Sita slightly, clearing space around her. They nudged the calf closer to her belly so it could nurse. And when the first drop of milk touched the calf's mouth, the Rangers felt the tension break. Laughter mixed with tears. The jungle seemed to come alive again. Birds sang, the wind stirred the grass, and the golden sunlight poured down like a blessing. Sita had done the impossible. But it wasn't just survival. It was symbolism. For elephants, the herd is everything. They mourn their dead, protect their young, and fight for each other with unshakable loyalty. What the Rangers saw that day wasn't just birth. It was unity, love, and the sacred rhythm of life continuing no matter the odds. Later, when Sita tried to rise, the herd surrounded her, using their trunks and bodies to support her massive weight. She grunted, pushed with her hind legs, and finally stood. The sight drew spontaneous applause from the Rangers, though she couldn't hear them. She towered once again, a little weak, but alive, her newborn standing proudly beneath her, leaning against her leg for safety. Joseph took off his hat and wiped his eyes. In 20 years of watching these animals, he said softly, I've never seen anything like this. It's a miracle. Aisha nodded silently, her gaze fixed on the calf, who was now exploring its new world, sniffing leaves, touching the ground, and occasionally tripping over its own feet. Every step it took was clumsy, but filled with purpose. The mother stood watch, her trunk resting protectively over her baby's back. Despite her exhaustion, there was strength in her stance, the ancient strength of mothers everywhere. As the sun began to set, the sky turned a deep orange, reflecting off the dusty savanna. The Rangers stayed until twilight, unwilling to leave. They watched as the herd slowly began to move, forming a protective ring around the mother and her newborn. The baby stumbled, but followed, learning with each step. In the golden glow, Sita turned once, her eyes catching the Rangers from afar. For a brief, unforgettable moment, it felt like she understood, as if she was saying thank you simply by standing there, alive, her calf by her side. When the herd finally disappeared into the tall grass, the Rangers sat in silence. No one spoke for a long time. They didn't need to. The miracle they had just witnessed spoke louder than words ever could. That night, back at camp, Joseph wrote the day's report in his worn leather journal. But when he reached the section titled Incident Description, he stopped, unsure what to write. How could anyone capture what they had seen? How could mere words describe a fallen giant who gave birth in her final moments, only to rise again to protect the life she created? After a while, he simply wrote, greater than today, we saw life defy death. The matriarch fell, but the herd did not lose her. From dusk came a cry, a new voice in the wild. A miracle was born. The following morning, the Rangers returned to the same clearing. The dust had settled, the grass bent from where the herd had lain. Tiny footprints led away toward the watering hole, proof that both mother and baby had survived the night. Joseph smiled. She made it, he said softly. She really made it. And somewhere deep in the savanna, the herd continued its slow march under the rising sun. The calf stayed close to its mother, occasionally brushing against her with its trunk. Sita moved slower than before, but her presence was stronger than ever, a living symbol of resilience, motherhood, and the eternal rhythm of life. For the Rangers who witnessed it, that day would never be forgotten. It was a story that reminded them, and everyone who would later hear it, that even in the harshest corners of nature, Miracles still bloom in the dust.